We got more details coming out of day 3 of training camp for the Chicago Sky. We're going to discuss that and how Angel Reese and Camila Cardoso are starting to find their routine in training camp. But more importantly, we're also going to talk about Teresa Weatherspoon and the job that she's going to have to really revamp the careers of two really talented players in Chennedy Carter and Diamond DeShields. We're going to get into all that plus a little bit of the mailbag right after this.
Welcome to Chicago Sky Central, and here's your host, Haize.
What's going on, Sky fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Sky Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Sky related. I'm the host there, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Chicago Sky Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into this content. And so, training camp has continued for the Chicago Sky. They will be taking a day off today on Tuesday as their preseason game was moved from Saturday to Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern time. So be on the lookout for that. It's going to be a fun game to watch this new Sky team really take the court and see how they're trying to figure out the balance, right? And, Coach Spoon did talk about that, in getting into exhibition. That's really going to try to experiment with different rosters, different lineups, things like that. They did have a 5-on-5 in yesterday's training camp. And, in that, the combination that they used was Dana Evans, Marina Mabry, Michaela Oniware, Angel Reese, and Isabel Harrison on one side and the other players on another side. So, and made sure that they said these are not the starters. The goal was just to get competitive practice going and find the right mix of ladies to get that competitive on both sides. So, that's what it said. And, Teresa Weatherspoon, like I said, reiterating the fact that, they will be looking at film every day. That's where they're really going to determine those rotations and stuff like that. She even said that her history of being a point guard in the WNBA is really helping to anchor her relationships with Camila Cardoso and also Angel Reese. And so, that's what it comes down to. Her saying this directly. I'm a playmaker, so I study everybody. You study strengths, you study weaknesses. What you do is come in and polish it up. And that's really kind of what, overarchingly, outside of course, I know it's exciting to have Camila here and Angel Reese. It's bringing a whole new set of eyes to the Chicago Sky. We actually got a great comment on the video yesterday as well that somebody pointed out. They're like, hey, Angel Reese to a lot of people is a celebrity, right? So it's not, they don't look at it as just necessarily the basketball aspect. They just want to see Angel play, and she's going to play. She's going to get those opportunities. And, hearing that Angel Reese and Camila Cardoso, when they come in, Cardoso saying this, post moves, mid-range, driving to the basket, just post player stuff. And that's really what they're focused on so far. Angel Reese saying this, we have conversations all the time. We hold each other accountable. She has a mindset like Coach Mulkey at LSU, the LSU coach there, and saying being able to come in every day and just expect greatness and a lot from you, even expectations you might not have of yourself. She sees you. And that is one of the biggest things in this rebuild that's the most important. Yeah, you got the talent here, right? And you got the young talent to build your roster around going forward. You got a nice mix of veterans and youth here. But Coach Spoon is one of the biggest aspects and parts of this rebuild. The GM, Jeff Pagliosha, betting on her and the ownership bringing her in, it means that they trust her ability to develop, especially once they decided to make the move to go on from Clea Copper to get back into this draft and to make the moves that they did. It's betting on Coach Teresa Weatherspoon and her ability to kind of pull this stuff together, to develop a young talent, to set a culture and an expectation, because now you don't have a former finals MVP in Clea Copper out there that's going to be helping setting that tone for you and set the identity of your team. You're now very much so looking as your coach to really kind of set that, and then the players to build off on that and take that and run with it and keep that culture going once they become the kind of focal point. They're going to be the focal point on the court, right? But it's really about Coach Spoon really setting that expectations. And it seems like the Chicago Sky are having a really good training camp so far, right? And one of the things that's unique about the WNBA is the fact that, these ladies go from finishing the NCAA tournament to about a month to a month and a half later, they're playing WNBA ball. They go through their draft, their training camp, their preseason, all in an extremely condensed amount of time to their NBA counterparts, and that's a big part of this as well. And so, what they're doing here and how they're really kind of breeding in that culture and trying to build that as quickly but organically as you can is going to be important for the Chicago Sky as he look to really kind of take things off and go forward with it. So nobody really expected it to go this way that it went to, right? And it's gone a very different way than initially what I think a lot of us thought this Sky season was going to go. You brought in Coach Weatherspoon, you re-signed Kalia Copper to a long-term extension, but that's how fluid things work in the WNBA and in sports in general. The GM, Jeff Pagliosha, came in here and he looked at that roster. They made a decision. They looked at what they can get with Kalia Copper out there, and they made moves. And once they picked that vision, as far as going the rebuild route, of going younger route, they've done it and executed it just as about as you can expect to do it in the WNBA. Going from having no first-round picks in this draft to end up getting the number 3 and the number 8 overall picks in this, or number 7 overall picks in this draft, and just ended up getting 2 players in here that are going to be pillars for you. And so that's a really good thing to see what we're doing here. Teresa Weatherspoon continue to push the fact that they'll be fine, right? She truly does feel like they have everything they need here in the Chicago Sky roster. And, that's going to bring about its own expectations, the level of desire to see this team succeed at a high level. So, but outside of that, other notes there, Rayner and Chrissy both have not really played at all in training camp yet. Their own training camp contracts, but they haven't participated in any of the practice sessions that have been open to reporters. I think only the first 30 minutes of practice sessions are open to reporters, so nobody's seen those ladies play yet as part of this team. But again, I expect that to kind of figure itself out. Those are the only ladies really that have the question on if they're going to make the roster or not. We'll see what happens with that. But, the Sky going into a new era, going into a new focus, those things are major. Now, but part of that, right? And we've talked a lot this offseason about Angel Reese, Camila Cardoso, on what they're going to be, what their roles are going to be. But there are 2 players also on this team and on this roster, really 3, when you add in Malika Oniwere as well to that, which we'll talk about as well. Michaela, why did I say Malika? Michaela Oniwere to this team. But first up, Chennedy Carter, right? And Chennedy Carter is a player that was a former 4th overall pick. She didn't play last season, right, because she dealt with her own things, disciplinary issues, injuries over the course of her season. She's only 25 years old, but still has a very bright future. We're talking about a league where we see these ladies play upwards into their mid-30s, right? So still a whole hell of a lot of time ahead of her. She's the 4th overall pick in the 2020 draft. You look at her in that rookie year with Atlanta, averaging 17 points per game on 47% shooting, 37 from three-point range. Now, she has not shot the 3 ball that well at all since then. 2021, she only shot the 3 ball at 11%. 2022 at even less than that, at 20, well, better than that, 20%. But she's a player that if you can rehab her, right, in her career, her value, get her refocused, didn't play at all in the 2023 season, there's still quite a bit of talent there with Chennedy Carter that can be extracted, right? And so when we talk about the things of like who's going to start at the point guard position for the Chicago Sky, there are a lot of players that have that opportunity to, right? I think you're going to move Marina Mabry back to the off-ball position, and that's perfectly fine that you do that. Chennedy Carter is one of those players for the Chicago Sky that could end up starting at the point guard, and I don't think that that's a bad thing. She's going to have to earn that role for sure, right? And I think, Steve-O has said that he could see Lindsey Allen end up being that starting point guard, but part of what Teresa Weatherspoon is doing, and part also in this rebuild, is you getting the most out of the players that are there in front of you, right? And Chennedy Carter is a player that, because of everything else and kind of outside of basketball around her, the disciplinary things, her getting into it with teammates, things like that, it's really kind of put a highlight on other things than the skill there. She still has tons of skill, tons of talent. We're talking about a player who just recently averaged tons of points in the WNBA to start off her career. So, if you can get her back focused, which it does seem like she is at training camp so far, she has things to prove. We've talked about how Teresa Weatherspoon is a coach that's going to have that chip on her shoulder, and this team collectively, as part of the identity, you want that chip to be on their shoulders as well. Nobody brings that all together better than Chennedy Carter, and what she's going to be able to bring to this team is somebody that I don't think that you want to overlook at all either. So Kennedy's one that you could definitely look at to see how they're going to get out of it, how she's going to get the best out of Chennedy Carter. But then also Diamond DeShields, right? We all know Diamond DeShields has one of the best stories in all of sports as far as comeback, the adversity she's had to face. I know a lot of new Sky fans may not know. I mean, she was a member of the Sky. She was on our championship team. She ended up going away this season after that, right? and then not playing in the WNBA last season as well. But she's still a player in Diamond DeShields that has so much talent, right? You're talking about a lady who in her last season still averaged 13 points per game, did that on almost 40% shooting from the field. She can outright score the ball. She's averaged as most as 16 points per game in her WNBA career before. So I think this is a perfect opportunity for her, especially playing out on that wing to kind of do some of the things that she can naturally create for herself and others as well. And Diamond DeShields is another player that if Teresa Weatherspoon can get her career back on track, can get the most talent out of that's still there with Diamond DeShields, she can play a huge role for this Chicago Sky team. You look at the intensity that she plays with on both sides of the ball when she's fully healthy. 6'1", very versatile in how she can be used all up and down that roster. We saw that in the championship run as well with the Chicago Sky. So she definitely can perform. In that last year with the Sky, when we won a title, she averaged 11 points per game, starting 22 out of 32 games there as well. So, this is another player that has a whole hell of a lot still left to show in her WNBA career, and she's still got a whole lot of playing time in front of her too. Do not count her out yet. And then another player that you want to add to that is Michaela Onyenwere, right? We know and seeing what she can be as far as with her motor, with her physicality, things like that. A former Rookie of the Year in 2021. She was an All-Rookie Team 2021 on top of that. You look at what she did both in high school and in college as well. And while her averages have never jumped out the stat sheet at you, right? One of the only rookies, I think she was the first rookie since 2005 or something like that, maybe it was 2015, that did not average double-digit points but still won Rookie of the Year. But she's still somebody who may not have that ceiling that you're looking at is still turning into a superstar. I've learned to never put a cap on a player. She's only 24 years old, but she still is a player that still brings a lot. Even when you look at last year with Phoenix, right? She played all 40 games last year, started 27 of those games. She averaged almost 9 points per game on 40% shooting from the field, which was her career best shooting numbers from the field, and 31% from three-point range to go along with almost 4 rebounds per game, 1 assist per game, right under a steal, a half a block per game. This is still another player in Onyenwere who can really still just get out and make it happen. And so, when you look at those 3 players, and if Teresa Weatherspoon can get all 3 of those, or even 2 out of those 3, to kind of really revamp their career and get back on track, that's another sign of this fact that Teresa Weatherspoon was the right woman for the job. And I don't think anybody's really questioning that outside of maybe some casual fans that hear that Angel Reese may not start and then want to question if Teresa Weatherspoon knows. Believe me, Teresa Weatherspoon knows what she's doing, and she's a legend in this game. And, if anybody can motivate these players to kind of really step up and to get back on track, it's going to be that. So those are 3 players really to look at over the course of the season and to watch their growth on the Chicago Sky as well, and if they can get back on track, because if you can get that and get that quality play out of those ladies, it's going to be a big season for the Chicago Sky as well. And so love to see that continue for them. And this is going to be an exciting season for the Sky. And, we know we've been focusing a lot on our coverage on Angel and Camilla, and because that's the story. But let's not overlook the fact that you do have other storylines going on in this team and other storylines that are going to be a big part if this team is going to be successful, as we know that they can, right? This is a team that, to me, I have playoff aspirations and expectations for this team. And I don't think that's outside the realm of possibility. Hell, there's only 12 teams in the WNBA, right? And you can make the playoffs still being a team that's still trying to figure it out, and how well this team figures that out. And another player that I did not mention as well, another player that could have a chip on their shoulder, Isabel Harrison, basically missing out on her whole season last year. She's going to also be looking to prove something and also be a mentor to these other ladies that are coming in as well, seeing herself in those ladies as well. Another player, she played for Tennessee in college. So there's a lot of talent on this roster for the Chicago Sky. And I think people kind of, because there are question marks around some of the players on this team and question marks on the coach, question marks on the franchise, that people are really kind of overlooking the Sky. But I personally think that's the best position for us to be in, because I think we're going to surprise a lot of people next season, especially kind of new fans to the WNBA. But one of the things I want to do more consistently on the show, which we do on Chicago Bulls Central and Bears Central, is we do have mailbag days. Now, while we haven't gotten enough voicemails yet to start doing episodes that are strictly dedicated to the mailbag, I do want to go ahead and play the voicemail that we got so far. This one's from Nate.
How's it going, Haize? This is Nate. Big fan, man. So I know you saying go ahead and leave a voicemail. So I go ahead and try it out, send the messages. So my take is I think this is for the Sky. I see the Sky as actually a top 5, top 6 seed, and that's mostly, that's with the coaching, because coaching can do that, as we all know, with the rookies and everything, and also the staff, Izzy coming back, but also the X factor, which I believe is Chennedy Carter. Now, you can do a deep dive into Chennedy Carter, besides her last year with the Sparks, but her first 2 years, I mean, she's a superstar, man. You see her stats, besides her, 2022, her getting injured and being in toxic situations as a rookie, leading the team, the wobble and everything. She's a superstar. If you see her highlights, you see her college highlights, you see her tape, she's a superstar. And we also have I know everybody loves Dana. I love Dana too, but I'm also a realist. I'm in the stats and analytics like you, and I saw all the Sky games last year, and Dana was getting cooked. She was playing, like, man, she playing good D, and then all of a sudden she's getting cooked. She was getting cooked a lot more last year. I don't know if she was trying to, like, make sure she overcompensated or a contract coming up, but Dana was getting cooked. Not to say she'd get cut or anything, but she's not a starter, and I believe Teresa knows that. Even James Wade, who traded for her, knew that. He never saw her as a starter, and I don't see her being one this year. I believe Teresa Weatherspoon brought in Chennedy Carter for a reason, and that's to eventually be the starter. If she can show that she's healthy and if she can gel, Chennedy Carter, Marie Mabry, I'm thinking Diamond DeShields at the wing. I also see Brenna as a small forward. She's 6 foot. Imagine a 6 foot Allie Quigley. Izzy at the 4. I agree. Angel starting to come off the bench, but I see Camilla starting. They wanted her for a reason. She's 6'7". I see Camilla starting right off the bat. But yeah, that's my starting 5. And like I said, Chennedy Carter, they play through Chennedy, and this team's a top 5 team. All right, thanks, Haize.
And Nate, I completely agree with you, right? Completely agree with you. Chennedy Carter can absolutely be a key player for this team, and she has that ability. I think we all know that, right? And so I think in what we see and how we see Chennedy kind of come back in and acclimate herself back, missing out on the season is a lot for players. And I think sometimes people can forget that, but luckily these ladies play overseas, things like that. And Chennedy is a player that she fights, and she fights hard, and she has the talent, she has the drive, she has the will, and I think she's going to be out to prove people wrong as well. They kind of doubted her because of how her career has gone, because of other things. So I definitely agree with you there. Great point. As far as Camilla starting right away, I do think that that's the way that things are shaping up, is that Camilla's going to start right away. Angel's going to come off the bench, but either way, we're going to have an extremely solid starting 5. I agree with this starting 5 that you laid out. While I have talked about Dana, I do think Dana's going to get an opportunity at it. I can't knock you at all. If Chennedy comes in and she's focused, and like you said, Jeff, you said Teresa Weatherspoon, but Jeff Pagliosha went out and got Chennedy Carter. It was for a reason. I don't think that this, but from what I've seen, and maybe I'm giving them too much credit, it doesn't seem like they've done anything just to do it. Every move that they've made this offseason to build this version of the team has been for a purpose. And I do think that there could be something to what you're saying there, is that Chennedy Carter could be that starting point guard. I tell you what, starting her next to Marina Mabry, and then whoever you put at the 3, whether you put Michaela at the 3, whether you put a Diamond DeShields at the 3, whatever you do at the 3 there, that can be a versatile lineup that you're looking at there. And then you still have your rookies. You have Dana coming off the bench. Now, I don't agree with you that Dana was getting cooked. She was one of our best defender players, especially defending at the full length of the court. Now, as things went on and we had more injuries, things like that, it definitely, everybody kind of took a step back at some points last season. I'm not saying she was perfect all season long, but, I really like Dana Evans, regardless if it's coming off the bench or whatever else. I do watch her a lot overseas, so I've seen kind of that upside from her as well. But it's going to be, I think, whoever ends up being the starting point guard, whoever gets that opportunity, you really can't go wrong. Steve-O's talked about Lindsey Allen potentially being the starting point guard with her ability to spread the ball out. You got Dana Evans, you got Chennedy Carter there, who's also another opportunity. And then also at that 3 position, Brenna Maxwell. Do not overlook the opportunity for Brenna Maxwell to play a really big role on this team, guys. And, that's what Nate said as well. And I think it's going to be a very, very fun season. But that's my time for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Chicago Sky Central. Make sure you guys are following the show at Chicago Sky Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, ChicagoSkyCentral@gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and or voicemail for the mailbag, The number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Sky related, thanks to you guys. And I'll see you guys the next time we go to Skytown. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.